Nature is beautiful, but it's also terrifying. 1 second, you're enjoying a peaceful moment in the great outdoors, and the next, you're running for your life from something with teeth, claws, or a venomous bite. Whether it's a predator stalking its prey, an animal defending its territory, or just an unlucky encounter at the wrong time, there's no shortage of hair-raising stories where people have come face to face with creatures that could end them in seconds. From a python emerging from a living room wall to an enraged hippo launching a full-speed attack, these are 15 of the scariest encounters with dangerous animals that people somehow live to tell. Let's start off with number 15, Bison Rampage. Yellowstone National Park is known for its breathtaking landscapes, but one group of tourists learned that some sights are best admired from a distance. As they slowly approached a huge bison grazing peacefully on the grass, they figured they'd get a few pictures before moving on. The bison, however, had other ideas. At first, it seemed unbothered, but the second someone made a sudden movement, the air shifted. The bison snorted, stomped its hooves, and lowered its head. Classic warning signs that these tourists either ignored or didn't understand. Within moments, it charged. Panic erupted. Some tourists tried to run, a bad idea, while others froze in terror. The sheer power of the animal was enough to send everyone scrambling. Miraculously, the bison decided to back off at the last second. Whether it was a warning or just boredom, they were lucky. If it had fully committed to the charge, things could have ended very differently. Number 14, the elephant's unthinkable attack. Breakfast with a view. Well, what could go wrong? That's what a group of vacationers in Mana Pools National Park thought as they enjoyed their morning meal in an open area. Elephants were visible in the distance, but they didn't seem interested in the humans. That is, until one of them got a little too close. At first, the group stayed calm, trying not to spook the approaching elephant. But things took a drastic turn when the animal suddenly flared its ears, raised its trunk, and charged. With nowhere to run, the tourists froze, hoping to appear unthreatening. It didn't work. The elephant stormed through the lunch area, flipping tables and sending dishes flying. Miraculously, it didn't trample anyone, but the sheer chaos left everyone in shock. Officials later dismissed the elephant from the area, confirming that everyone was unharmed or hurt. Number 13, the hungry tiger chase. A group of friends in Rentham-Bourne National Park thought they were in for a scenic safari drive, until a tiger decided to turn them into its next meal. It all started when they spotted some movement in the bushes ahead. At first, they excitedly pulled out their cameras, thinking they were lucky to witness the majestic predator up close. That excitement didn't last long. Within moments, the tiger burst from the undergrowth, locking its eyes on them with a terrifying focus. The group's adrenaline spiked as they realized they weren't just observing nature. They were now part of the food chain. Panicked, they stepped on the gas, hoping to outrun the beast. But the tiger wasn't giving up easily. For what felt like an eternity, it sprinted after them, its massive paws kicking up dust as it closed the gap. Just when it seemed like the chase wouldn't end, the tiger suddenly slowed, losing interest. The group didn't wait around to question why. They floored it out of there, forever haunted by the close call. Number 12, the stalking mountain lion. Trail cameras are meant to capture wildlife at a safe distance. But for one man and his friend Rachel, a casual check on their cameras turned into a real-life nightmare. As they approached their camera in a wooded area, Rachel suddenly noticed something watching them. A mountain lion, partially hidden in the bushes, had locked eyes on them, and it wasn't running away. Panic set in, but they knew the golden rule: don't turn your back and don't run. Instead, they backed away slowly, trying to make themselves look bigger and more intimidating. The mountain lion wasn't impressed. It took a few steps forward, then another. It was testing them. The tension in the air was suffocating, but after what felt like an eternity, the big cat finally lost interest and disappeared into the trees. The pair wasted no time getting out of there. It was a very close call. Number 11. The tiger that nearly took down a village. In a small village in India, a group of men found themselves in a situation straight out of a nightmare. A tiger had been spotted lurking near the outskirts, and fearing for their safety, the villagers decided to try and scare it away. Armed with sticks and sheer determination, they cautiously approached the area where the predator had been seen. At first, it seemed like their efforts were working. The tiger stayed at a distance, watching them with its piercing eyes. But then, it snapped. Without warning, it charged straight at them, covering the distance faster than anyone could react. The men scattered in terror, some tripping over themselves in sheer panic. Just when it seemed like the tiger would strike, it suddenly stopped, staring them down for a few agonizing seconds before slowly retreating into the jungle. It was a rare moment of mercy from one of nature's most efficient hunters, and one that no one there would ever forget. Number 10. The furious hippo attack. It started as a laid-back safari, but things escalated quickly for these tourists in Valewater, South Africa. While driving down a dirt road, they noticed a hippo in the distance. It seemed calm at first, slowly approaching their car from behind like a curious bystander. They thought it was just another cool sighting, until it wasn't. Hippos are known as one of Africa's deadliest animals, and this one was about to remind them why. Without warning, it broke into a full sprint, its gigantic frame moving way faster than anyone expected. The tourists hit the gas, but the hippo was gaining. The thundering sound of its hooves hitting the ground sent shockwaves through the vehicle. For a terrifying stretch of road, it seemed like the hippo might catch up. But just as quickly as it had started, it suddenly slowed and veered off. So, never mess with these seahorses. Number 9. The snake that boarded a fisherman's boat. A solo fisherman was out on the water, patiently waiting for his next big catch when something far worse caught him instead. Everything was going smoothly. Calm waters, good weather, and even a successful first catch. But then, without warning, a snake slithered up into his boat. The man's relaxed day turned into sheer panic as he realized he had an uninvited guest. It wasn't just any snake. It was moving fast and heading straight for him. He scrambled to the opposite side of the boat, trying not to tip over in his fear. For a few agonizing moments, the snake explored the boat, flicking its tongue as if deciding whether to stay or leave. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, it slipped back into the water and swam away. The fisherman, still shaking, sat frozen for a while, letting his nerves settle. One thing was for sure, he wasn't fishing in that spot again anytime soon. Number 8. The giant python, hiding in a living room wall. Imagine sitting in your living room watching TV when you suddenly hear a hissing sound coming from inside your wall. That's exactly what happened to a man in Bangkok, Thailand. At first, he thought it was just the house settling, until the hissing grew louder. Alarmed, he called for help, and soon, professional rescuers arrived to investigate. When they broke through the plasterboard, they were expecting maybe a rat's nest or some trapped pipes. What they found instead was a massive 15-foot python coiled inside the wall, staring back at them. The snake, which had likely been living there for years, wasn't in a hurry to leave. As the rescuers tried to pull it out, the stubborn reptile resisted, thrashing and tightening its grip around the wooden beams. Eventually, they managed to extract it and transport it back to the wild. Safe to say, the homeowner probably never sat in that room the same way again. Number 7. The hippo chase. Hippos might look goofy, but they're responsible for more human deaths than lions, elephants, and crocodiles combined. A group of tourists in Kenya found out exactly why when one particularly bad-tempered hippo decided to make their safari a little more exciting. They were cruising along the river in a small boat, snapping pictures of wildlife, when they noticed a hippo watching them from the water. At first, it seemed indifferent, barely moving, but then it vanished beneath the surface. Seconds later, the water exploded. The hippo was charging at full speed, heading straight for them. The boat's driver gunned the engine, trying to outrun the enraged beast. But hippos can move fast, really fast. For nearly a minute, the animal pursued them, sending water splashing with each powerful lunge. Just when it seemed like it might ram the boat, it suddenly veered off, disappearing back into the river. The tourists, breathless and drenched, learned firsthand why you never underestimate a hippo. Number 6. The giant alligator that tried to break into a house. When people think of break-ins, they usually imagine burglars, not a 10-foot alligator trying to bust through the window. But that's exactly what happened to a family in South Carolina. One quiet evening, they suddenly heard a loud thumping noise outside their house. When they went to check, they were horrified. A massive gator was standing on its hind legs, pushing against the glass with its powerful body. Panic set in as the homeowners locked their doors and called for help. The alligator, clearly not in the mood to leave, continued to slam against the window, scratching and hissing. Rescuers arrived and tried hosing it down, hoping to scare it off. But instead of retreating, the gator got angrier. Eventually, with ropes and sheer manpower, the team managed to subdue the beast and drag it back to the swamp. But one thing's for sure, that family probably checks their windows a lot more often now. Number 5. The 14-foot king cobra that stood its ground. A snake rescuer in India was called to remove a harmless snake from a family's bathroom. What he found instead nearly sent him running. As he cautiously poked around, expecting a small reptile, a 14-foot-long king cobra suddenly reared up, flaring its massive hood. The sheer size of the snake froze him in place. This wasn't just any cobra, it was an apex predator, one bite away from delivering a fatal dose of venom. The rescuer, knowing that one wrong move could cost him his life, slowly reached for his snake hook. The cobra hissed, swaying menacingly, watching his every move. Finally, with expert precision, he managed to secure its head and lift it away from the house. The snake was safely relocated to the wild, but for those watching, it was a nerve-wracking lesson in just how close danger can lurk. Number 4. The cheetah that climbed into a tourist's car. A safari in Kenya's Masai Mara was supposed to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but not like this. A group of tourists had been admiring a few resting cheetahs when one of the sleek predators suddenly got curious. At first, it sniffed around the vehicle, but before anyone could react, it leaped inside. The air turned suffocatingly silent. No one dared to move as the cheetah calmly prowled around, its razor-sharp claws inches from their heads. The guide, staying impressively composed, whispered, "Stay still." No sudden movements. The tourists barely breathed as the cheetah observed them, flicking its tail in casual dominance. Then, just as suddenly as it had entered, it hopped out. The group remained frozen in disbelief, shaken but unharmed. They had come for a safari, but ended up being part of it. Number 3. The shark feeding frenzy. Spearfishing in Australia's Coral Sea was supposed to be an adventure, but for this group of fishermen, it nearly turned into a fight for survival. They had been reeling in catch after catch, unaware they were sending out an invitation to trouble. At first, it was just one shark, then another. Within minutes, the water turned restless, shifting ominously. And then, chaos erupted. A feeding frenzy broke out as sharks swarmed in, violently tearing into the speared fish. The once clear ocean became a churning blur of teeth, blood, and panic. One fisherman, still in the water, suddenly felt a dark shadow behind him. A shark was closing in. He grabbed his partner's leg in terror, silently screaming, "Move!" Heart pounding, they swam for their lives. Miraculously, they made it back to the boat, breathless but alive. Number 2. The shark that got stuck in a cage. Diving with sharks is supposed to be thrilling, but controlled. For one unlucky diver, things went very out of control when a massive great white shark decided to break the rules. The diver was inside a shark-proof cage submerged in the deep ocean, watching as a few sharks swam nearby. But then one of them lunged. In a split second, the powerful predator rammed the cage, jaws wide open, and got its entire head stuck between the bars. The diver inside had nowhere to go. Trapped in a metal box with a panicking, thrashing shark, his only option was to stay perfectly still and hope for the best. The shark, now desperate to escape, violently shook the cage, bending the metal bars as it tried to wiggle free. After what felt like an eternity, it finally managed to pull itself loose and swim away. The diver, shaken, but miraculously unharmed. Number 1. The silverback gorilla's sudden rage. Visiting gorillas in the wild is an unforgettable experience, until one decides you aren't welcome. A group of tourists in Africa learned this the hard way when a massive silverback gorilla suddenly charged straight at them. At first, the group was cautiously watching the enormous primate from a safe distance. It seemed calm, wandering around and minding its own business. But then, something changed. Without warning, the silverback roared and lunged forward, slamming the ground with its fists. Tourists froze in terror, barely breathing as they followed their guide's desperate instructions. "Stay still, don't make eye contact." The gorilla wasn't done. It circled the group, bluff charging multiple times, clearly asserting its dominance. One wrong move could have triggered a full-blown attack. Finally, after minutes that felt like hours, the silverback lost interest and backed away. The tourists had just experienced a rare and terrifying moment, one that no zoo visit could ever prepare them for. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.